In this video, you'll learn how you can build this cool note-taking application with all the bells and whistles of CRUD. Also be able to show it in the form of a list or in form of a grid. If the application is empty or there are no notes in the application, it just shows this cool animation. So you can create a note by saying some title and some body in here, right? And you don't have to just save it, you just have to go back and it saves it automatically for you. And you can even view it in a form of a grid, in a form of a list, right? To delete the note, just open it, tap on delete, and you get this cool delete animation. Just tap on proceed. This tutorial is in association with the tutorial linked somewhere right here, so you can check it out. Okay, I have this basic application up and running, the counter application. So I'm just going to do some quick cleanup here. Okay, so I'm mostly done with the cleanup now. I just need to create a new folder here. All I like is to have everything inside src, right? Inside of src, we're going to have a new dart file, call it app.dart, that will return the material app, right? And inside of this, we're going to have a new folder called views, where we'll be writing all our UI components. And okay, I guess that's what we need as of now. So inside of this app.dart, we'll say you have a stateless widget that can just be app, right? And this can return a material app, right? Okay, and then we can return this app from our main, like so. So we can remove this and we can paste it just like that. Okay, and we can also import it. I don't. Okay, there we go, and we can mark it constant. Okay, inside of src we can have another folder and call it res or resource. Okay, let's call res for now, and let's have a new file called strings, because I like to have all my strings stored inside of this file. And then I can say class, I can call it app strings, I can say static const app name equals NoteBucket. You can call it whatever you like, but I'll just call it NoteBucket for now. And close this file. I can go back to my app. Inside of material app, I can give it the title. The title can be appstrings.app name. Okay, all right, now it's this empty thing because we are not returning any kind of scaffold from here. So instead of views, we'll create a new file, call it home.dart. We will call it home view, right? And we can just return a empty scaffold from here, and we can also tell this app that this is our home. All right, okay, so first things first, we have to build this home screen that has this title that says NoteBucket, and we have this icon over here, and then we have some animation going on here, right? Okay, so first this title thing. Instead of home view, we can expand our scaffold. We can start with the body. We can say column. Column can have children, and the first children chart it's going to have is this text that says the node bucket, I guess. So app strings.app name. I save it. Okay, so it's top. I write here in the corner to solve this issue. Since we're not having an app bar here, so what we'll do is we'll just simply wrap this body, that is this column, with a widget called safe area. Okay, that solves the issue. All right, next thing that we need is to head over to pub.dev, and we need to look for Google Fonts, right? And we need to install this dependency. So we'll get back to our pubspec.yaml, right? And we will paste it right here inside of the dependencies, right? We'll save it and let it run the Flutter pubget. If it doesn't work for you, you can just go to the terminal and run Flutter pubget, so it will be up and running. Okay, and here we can now pass the style. Okay, it's going to be Google Fonts this time. Google Fonts dot Poppins. I like Poppins. Okay, we might be getting some warnings here. Just all we can do is we can kill this app. We can rerun this, and the warnings will disappear. Alright, our application is up and running once again, and let's check if there are any warnings. Okay, the warnings are gone. Alright, all we have to do is make it little bigger so that it's more ocular. Let's say font size to be 24. Okay, that looks just fine. What else do we need? We need to wrap it with some padding so that it has some space from top, left, right, and all the other sides. So let's wrap it with some padding and make it 20. All right, we've got nice spacing now. What else? Okay, we look at the image. We have right here, we have this icon. All right, and it's going to be a dynamic icon. So what we'll do is, instead of the stateless widget, we'll convert it into a stateful widget, and we can have a boolean. We can say is list view, because this toggles whether we want to show it in either list view or a grid view. So let's give it true for now, right? And based on this variable, we are going to drive the change in this icon. Okay, so we can wrap this with a row like that, and this children, we can format this document first. Okay, and then we can have an icon button. Okay, we can implement on pressed later. We can have an icon. We can have icons dot. Okay, what was it again? Icons dot grid view, I guess. Okay, we have one of them. All right, and just to have spacing in between these two, we will go to the mean axis alignment property and make it space between. All right, mean axis dot space between makes it move far away. All right, now we need to make it dynamic somehow. Okay, to make it dynamic, all we have to implement is we have to implement this variable. We will be having a ternary statement here, so we can say is list view. So if it is list view, we are going to have icons dot this icon. Actually, I found it pretty much looks like a list, so split screen outlined, right? Okay, let's save it. Right, and now we can implement this on pressed. So we can just say set state, and we can say is list view equals not is list view. We can save it. Let's see if it works. All right, works like a charm. Next, we need to have this animated thing going on over here. For this, we'll head over to lottie animations, lottiefiles.com as in. And in here, what we will do is we will search for this empty animation. So you can look for empty animations. You can choose whichever animation suits you best. I'll go with this one. So I can select this. I can say download, and I'll download this version that says lottie JSON. I'll download this. I'll come back to my application. Inside of my root directory, I'll create another folder that says assets, so that I can have all my animations and images. Okay, I'll create another folder in here and call it animations. All right, now the file that I've downloaded from the lottie JSON, I'll go to a new finder window. I'll try to navigate to it. Okay, there we see. I can drop this file in here. All right, and let's rename this to empty. Okay, now we need to tell Flutter to index this file as well. So we'll just uncomment all these lines where we are dealing with assets. Instead of images, we will call it assets slash animations slash, and we'll We have to make sure that we have the slash here, so that it goes into the folder and scans through every file. Okay. Okay, I guess there's some issue. I guess it's not finding that folder. All right. I guess it has indexed this file as well. Okay. Now what we'll do is we'll go back to our lib inside our src, inside our resources. We'll create another file and call it assets.dart, right? And we can call it class animation. We're going to have a base path, and we are having this underscore here because we never want to access this base path anyway from this class. So that's why we're having this with an underscore. All right. And then we can define our path to the empty animation that we just downloaded, right? So we can call it empty, just call it empty as of now because we know it by the name of the class. Okay, and then we have to do some interpolation with the base path, right? And we can call it empty.json, just like that. Okay, now to make use of this animation, all we have to do is we have to install one package from pub.dev. So we'll head over to pub.dev, search for lottie. Okay, and this is the package that we need. We're going to install it in our pubspec.yaml. All right, and then inside of this column we have this node bucket and thing going on. So under this we can have our lottie animation, lottie.asset, and we can pass in the animation asset path that we made for our empty thing. Okay, that should pretty much work. Okay, we have this animation going on here. All right, what else can we do is we can, instead of writing this animation here and all this text here, what we can do is we can have another widget. We can have a new folder called widgets. Okay, and inside of this we can have a new file and tell it this is the empty view, so let's call it empty view as of now, right? And have a stateless widget here. Empty view, right? And it should return a column. Why? Because we have some text underneath that animation. So we're going to do that. We grab this, we paste it here, and make sure we are doing all the imports right. Okay, and under this we can have this text. Okay, we can paste it just like that. All right, and what else can we do is we can save this and say empty view here just to make sure it looks fine. Okay. All right, one more thing that we need to make sure is that excuse me, this is in the style of Google fonts of Poppins. And then we can pass in font size. So let's make it a little bigger. Let's say 20. Okay, that's too big. Let's go with 18. Yeah, that looks fine. Okay, that's that. So we can mark it our const as of now. Okay, what else do we need? We need a floating action button here. So we will create a floating action button outside of the body. So this is safe area, this is supposed to be body, so you have to create it right here, I believe. Okay, and then we can have a floating action button. I like to have it white in color, so let's give it colors.white. Let's give it a child, say icon, can stop add. Okay, what else does it need? Okay, so it requires this parameter on pressed. Okay, let's pass that too. All right, so we have a floating action button here, and we need to tell it should be gray in color. So let's call it okay, that's that. Okay, so this one's in circular shape, and the one we have in the picture is in some sort of squiggle. So what we can do to achieve this is we'll go back to our app.dart. Inside of here, what we'll do is we'll enable material 3 theme. So what we have to say theme and say theme data on this. And then we get this property called use material 3 and we'll mark it true. We'll save it and we get this Quackle theme here. Alright, I guess the home UI is pretty much done. We will get this widget in the center when we are implementing all our lists and grids. Let us now build this screen where we actually write the note, where we have two text fields, a title and a description. So what we'll do is we'll go to the views, have a new file, call it create node.dart, right? And start with a stateless widget. So let's call it create node view, just so that we can differentiate. We're adding views at the end of our UI classes just to differentiate UI from logic and other classes, right? Okay. And inside of here, once again, we'll have a scaffold, and in body, we're going to have safe area. Safe area can have a child column. And as per the UI, we have a button to go back, a title and description. That's it. It's a very simple UI. So what we'll do is we will just create an icon button and give it an icon. Let's call it back. Okay, it should be arrow back. Okay, and then we need to have an on pressed. Just like that. It still shows some error. Let's see what it is. Alright, so we need to make sure we are passing this inside children. Okay, that's that. So yeah, and we can make it constant as well. Okay, let's navigate to this page. So we will do that by using this plus arrow or this plus button here. So we'll go back to the home. Inside of unpressed of this, we'll say navigator of dot context. Dot push material page route and pass in the builder here. It's a context. Say create note view, right? And as we tap on the plus, we are navigated to here. Okay, and we need to also implement this back button. So we will do one thing. We'll go back to create view and we will say navigator dot top and pass context in here. Okay, that should do the trick. And let's format document. Let's try to use this. Okay, it works. Good. What next we have to do is we need to have two fields, one for the title and the other for the description. So once again, inside of our column, we are going to have a field. We are going to say, what should we say? It should be a text field maybe. And we're gonna say we need some border. Border should be none. Okay, it should be input border, I guess. Okay, input border dot none. What else do we need? We need some hint text, and it should be title. Let's save this. Okay, there we go. And let's have some Poppins font here as well. So we can say style. Do we get style property? Yes, we get style. We'll say Google Fonts. Google Fonts dot Poppins. Right, and we need to have some font size here. Font size, let's say 24. Okay, that looks fine. And what else we can do is we can wrap it inside some padding and have some horizontal padding here. So we can say symmetric. Say 20. Okay, that's kind of neat. And we need another text field for our description. So what we'll do is we can just copy this block and paste it and mark and this and just place it with description. Okay, and we can reduce the font size to say 22. Let's make it 20. Okay, that looks nice. And what else can we do? So this is in center and doesn't look so good, so we can wrap it inside of a row. Okay, that brings it there. And one more thing that we can do is we can again wrap it with some padding. See what happens. Okay, that padding of value 8 fixes it. Okay, that's kind of neat. What else do we need? We need text controllers here, and to use text controllers we'll have to first convert this into a stateful widget. And now what we can have are input field controllers. So let's build the controllers here. So we'll say final title controller, is a text editing controller. It should be a text editing controller. Okay, and similarly we need one for the description as well. So we can replace title with description and we are good to go. Okay, and whenever you are using such controllers, we should also implement our onDispose method, and always remember to dispose our controllers. So we can just simply call dispose methods here. It's always a good practice to dispose the controllers once we no longer need them. Okay, that's that. Let's now make sure our controllers in the right place. So this one's for the title. We can say controller and pass in the controller for title. Okay, and this one's for description. So we can say controller. Okay, we have a description controller as well. And we can make constant everywhere. Okay, that sounds neat. And just to make sure that everything's working, we are not really having a save button here. We have to make sure we save it once we tap on the back itself. So we'll just try to see how we can achieve that. So the method that is triggered whenever you press back button is the it's the onDispose itself. So inside this onDispose method, what we will do is before we dispose our controllers, we can simply print our values, and we'll be using log for that. Okay, log that comes from Dart developer right here. Okay, so we'll just try to see what's inside the title controller.text. Similarly, we are going to have a log statement for our description controller as well, like that. Okay, let's feed in some values. So, and before we feed in value, let's completely restart this application because we have built few controllers in there. Okay, let's tap on create note. Let's have some sample title and sample description. You guys can forgive me for the spelling. Let's try to go back. Okay, so we are getting our data here, which means every time we try to go back, this method is triggered and we can read our data like over here, right? Okay, that's kind of neat. What's next? Now we'll have to make sure we store our data. To store our data, we require a model, right? So inside of SRC, we can have a new folder, call it model, right? Inside of model, we'll have another file and have node.dart. Okay. Now every node contains of two things, a title and a description, but we'll also save the date time of on which the node was edited or created or whatever, right? So we'll say class node, definitely we'll call it node, and we'll have a string title and a string description, and also make sure that these are final fields, just like that. Okay. All right, what else? Now what we can do is we can use this bulb and say we can generate our constructors. Hold on, we just have to make sure. Okay, now we get all these options. We can get our constructors and we can also say generate a data class. Okay, to get this option, what you have to do is you have to go into the extensions and say data class generator, and you can install any of these packages. These just work out of the box, and you then start seeing this option that says generate data class. You can select generate data class, and you get the whole class generated for you, right? And inside this, you can see you get these methods to modify your object. You say copy with, get to map, from map, and all those good stuff. What else do we need? We also need another variable or another field that stores the last date time or the last timestamp when the node was edited. So we can say final last edited. Okay, let's call it last modified. Last mod just works. So, and should be of type date time, right? And then again, you see this error, you can go on this bulb and say generate data class, and the error goes away, right? So now you have this node class going on here. Okay, what else? Now we need to make sure to store these nodes somewhere that in such a way that we are able to access it even after the application is closed and restarted, right? For that, we'll be using a local database, and we'll go back to our pub.dev and we'll search for isar. So isar is a local database that's pretty useful, that comes in handy whenever you have to do all these kind of things, whenever you have CRUD operations on your mobile device or your mobile application. So this is something that we can make use of. Okay, to install isar, we'll just go back to our pubspec.yaml, and we will first declare an isar version. This is one of the ways of installing pub packages. So what we'll do is under environment, we can declare isar version like so. Okay, and then we can, and also make sure you're on the same version as I am, 3.0.5 it is. Okay, and then what you have to do is you will have to install two packages inside of your dependencies like so, isar and isar flutter libs. And also you need two more things, build runner and isar generator inside your dev dependencies, just like that. Okay, you can save your pubspec.yaml and say flutter pubget just to install all these dependencies. All right, once that is done, we can go into our src, create a new folder, call it services, and then have a new file called localdb.dart. Okay, and then we'll create a new class, call it localdb services. Okay, inside of this localdb services, what we will do is we will do all our operations that are necessary to interact with the local database, right? First of all, we will need a function that will open or connect to the local database instance. So it's of type future. It is going to return us an instance of isar, and we can call it OpenDB. just like that. And inside of OpenDB, we'll check if we already have an instance of isar. So we'll say isar dot instance names dot is empty. If it is empty, only then we will create a new instance. You can say await isar. You'll say open, just like that. And we need to pass the schemas. As of now, we don't have schemas, and they'll be passed in form of a list. And we can say inspector to be true, just like that. And we can return this. You can also have a comma here. Okay, we're getting some error here. It says exception. Okay, some sort of, okay, we need an async. We need to mark this as asynchronous function. All right. Okay, what else do we need? If there is no instance, we will open it by doing so. Or if there is an instance already, then we'll just simply return the existing instance of isar. So we'll just say value isar dot get instance. Okay, that should do our job. All right, now we're going to have a member variable. So we'll say late future isar, call it db, right? And as soon as the instance of this class, our local db service, is created, what we want to do is we want to assign some value to this db, right? So we'll just say OpenDB equals db equals OpenDB, right? Just so that we are assigning this with the instance of isar. Okay, that's cool. So this is one of the things that we have done. Okay, now what we need is we'll go back to the isar documentation right here, and it says if we wish to store something like email, we need to mark it with collection. We need to have a part email.g.dart, right? And we're going to do something similar for our notes class as well. So we'll go back to our models. Inside of note, we'll mark it as collection, right? And it automatically imports isar for us. And since it's a collection, it should also have an ID, and we can pass in an ID just like that. Okay, and once we pass an ID here, we should regenerate our data class. And once we do that, we see some error here. We can just remove this to map, and we can replace it with this. We can completely remove this. Okay, that solves all our problems. All right, now node can be stored as a collection. One more thing that we need to make sure that is we have declared this like so. So we're going to have a part node dot, and observe that we have a node dot g dot dart. G means generated, right? So this file is yet to be generated, and this should be generated by isar itself. And to generate these files, there's a command that we'll be using. We'll just go to the isar documentation and try to find out which command is that. Alright, so these are the commands that we can use. Okay, let's try the second one. I guess this one didn't work. Let's try this command. Let's see if anything happens. Okay, so it generates our node.g.dart. Okay, and this is a generated file, and it's recommended never to modify this. So we can just quickly close it to be on the safe side. And now what we'll do is we'll come back to our local DB service, right? And inside of here, we need to pass in the schema. So we are working with the node schema, and note that it was generated inside this node.g.dart. So, and that's why it's always recommended never to modify this file. Okay, you are always free to read this, but please make sure you don't modify anything here. Okay, that's that. We can quickly save it. And now what we can do is we can have our methods in place that will help us modify this local database and enter and read values from it. Okay, first of all we'll need something to save our notes, so we can say future void, we can say save note, and let's say what else can we need. Okay, we'll require a note, definitely a note object that we can save. Let's mark it as asynchronous. All right, and then finally we'll need an isar instance, so we'll say isar equals await db, and note that this db is this variable, and it's await because it is of type future isar, and it will give us an isar instance in the future. Okay, and then we can do some transactions over here, so we'll say write transaction sync, and every time we do an operation, let it be read or write, it's generally done with a transaction sync. Okay, all right, mostly the write operations. So we'll say isar dot put to add data, so we'll say isar dot notes because we are having the notes collection, and that's where we are putting the notes. And we'll say put sync because we are inside of a write sync transaction, and we'll say note. Okay, that's that. So that's all we need to do to insert a note inside of our db. And what we'll do is we will go to our create note view, and in here we will say final local db, we can say local db service, right? And inside of this local db we can create a new note. We can say final title and get the title value like so, and also say final body or description for short. Okay, and then what we can do is we can create a new note, call it final new note equals note. Let's quickly import this, and then we can say title to be title and description to be DESC description, and then last modified to be date time dot now, because this is the time when since this is the time when we are saving it, and that's the time we are modifying it. Okay, what else do we get? We need an ID as well, so we can say ID be, alright, it's an integer but it should be incremented on its own. So what does the documentation say? What can we do is we can say isar dot auto increment should work. Okay, let's do this and import it. Okay, that seems to be working. And finally we can use our local db and say save note and pass in the new note that we just made. Okay, that's that. And just to make sure everything works fine, we'll just kill the application and run it once again. All right, looks like the application is up and running once again. We'll quickly open our console just to see if there are any errors here. Okay, let's try to open this, and we see our isar is connected, and we can read everything that's inside the db by going to this URL in here. And it is always advised to open it inside Chrome. It just doesn't work inside Safari. So we'll quickly open Chrome and paste it like so. Okay, let's try to grab this link once again. Okay, now we are connected to the instance of the app. Let's try to pass in some title, some random title and some description. And once we go back, Okay, we see some log here, and let's go back here. Okay, so this is the instance that was created. This is the object that was saved. Okay, what else can we do here now? Finally, we have saved the object here, but how do we get to read it? So what we have to do is we have to show the list of uh, all the available nodes. So what we'll use is we'll use stream just to listen to all the nodes in here. So we'll say list of node, right? And we can say listen all nodes, right? And then we can say async, and since it's a stream, so we need to mark it with async asterisk. All right, and once again we will grab an instance of isar, and then we'll say isar. And what we have to do is we have to listen it, and we'll be watching it. We'll say nodes dot where, and then we'll set let's say watch. Okay, and we also have to say fire immediately true, because once it starts listening, it should give us the first batch of nodes. And we also have to yield this all right. That should do our job. Okay, let's go back to our home where we have to show our nodes. And instead of showing an empty view, let's have a list view dot builder. Okay, list view dot builder. Inside of this we can have an item builder. Okay, and that should be a container. For now, a container works. Okay, item builder should have a context and an index, right? And then it should return a container. So let's return, instead of returning container, let's return a text for now. Just say something here, right? Inside of this, let's say item count. Let's make it 10. Okay, that goes away. Let's show the index in here. There's something wrong. Since it's a list view inside of a column, so we might have to wrap it with expanded. So we'll wrap it with expanded, just like that. Okay, so we see all those small little numbers there. And what else do we have to wrap it? We'll have to wrap it with a stream builder just to be able to listen to that stream and build a UI according to the values that come from the stream, right? So we'll be wrapping it with a stream builder, and we'll also pass it with a type of list of note, and we will import it like so. And we'll grab the stream by saying local db service dot listen to all nodes, just like that. And the snapshot needs to be that value, so we can say final nodes equals snapshot dot data. Okay, and this nodes should be of type list of nodes. Okay, and what else we can do is we can make sure that it is not empty and it's not null, so we can say snapshot dot data. We can have an if statement here. We can say snapshot dot data not equals null, and then we can return empty view if it is null, and if it is not, we'll just simply say snapshot dot data not null. Okay, so that we get nodes, and nodes is of type list of nodes. Okay, makes sense. Inside of item count, we'll say nodes dot length, and instead of saying this, we can say nodes. So the node at index, and then we can get the title from it. Okay, that's kind of nice. And then we can close these curly braces and complete the interpolation. Okay. So again, we are getting some error. It says render flex overflowed. Let's find out what's going on. Alright, so we are just making a very silly mistake here. It should be if data equals null, then show an empty view, and if it is not, then return this list view. Okay. Alright, so we get our first list view item here. What else do we have to work is we have to work our way on building the card where we show this item. So let's quickly do that. Let's say let's close all these files. Okay. All right, so inside of this widgets we can have a new file. We can call it note list item dart, right? And then we can start building a stateless widget and call it note list item. And I'll definitely tell you why are we using note list item as the name, because we'll also have another item that says note grid item for the grids. Okay. All right, so let's move this placeholder. Let's remove this placeholder and say material button. Okay, and we're going to have few children inside of this, and we are going to have a shape be rounded rectangular border. Border radius needs to be, let's stick to 10 for now. Border radius dot circular, pass 10 there. Okay, what else do we need? Let's make the elevation, we need to get out of the shape. Let's say elevation, make it 0. Let's give it a giant container. Okay, just like that, with some padding. Let's quickly fast forward this part so that you don't have to watch the boring stuff. Okay, I finally built this list card. Let's see how it looks like. So let's go back to the home, and instead of returning this text, let's return something like list. No, it's note list item. Okay, this looks decent. And one more thing that we need to make sure is we provide some padding in here. So it's a padding. Let's say 20, just like that. Okay, and this container seems little out of its place, so we'll go back to the container. Let's see what happened. Okay, we'll just make padding 0 here. Let's try this. Set start 0. Okay, that works. So okay, now it feels good. One more thing that we need to make sure is it's inside of a column where we can have a sized box and say height to be 20, right? So that there is some space from the top. Or what else can we do? We can place it under this thing, under the material button, just so that if there are multiple objects, so instead of passing this, let's make it 10. Okay, so that looks beautiful. Okay, that seems kind of nice. All right, inside of this widgets, let's create another file and call it notes list dot, and let's say stateless notes list, just like that. And we can have a function in here, not function, we can say final list note call notes, right? And then have it just like this. Okay, and get the final field parameters just like that. Go to home and grab this ListView.builder and return it from this widget just like that. And we need to import this as well, and we'll say notes.length. And to really show the title and body from the note, let's say note, and again we will get these parameters. We need to mark it final so that we can say required this dot note. Okay, we'll go back to our notes list and we'll say note. You can say note, the note on the index. Okay, you can say format document. Inside of home, what we'll do is we will simply return note list. Okay, notes list, and pass in our notes so that we have decoupled that. Okay, that looks beautiful. Okay, let's try to add few more notes. Let's have some title 1, add some gibberish in here. All right, let's add few more notes in here. Let's say some title, let's say title 1, and have some random gibberish here. Let's save this. Okay, we're not getting those values that are inside the database. Let's try to reconnect this. To see what's inside the database, what we will go do is we'll go to the list item itself. Inside here we are grabbing this note. So what we'll do is we'll get the title from this note and show it where the title should be, and we'll show the description right here. Note.description. Okay, and now we see whatever we just added, right? Okay, that kind of serves the purpose. Next, we need to make sure that whenever we tap on any of these notes, we navigate to the same page where the title and description are populated with all these values. And also we need to make sure that if we are simply closing off, we don't get these empty notes created here. Okay, so we will go to the create notes page, and inside of this dispose where we are saving the note. Before we save a note, we'll make sure that these fields aren't empty. So we'll just say if title dot is empty and description is also empty, then we'll just simply return. And if they have some value, we'll just create a new note. So the next time we create a new note and try to go back, no extra empty note is created, right? Okay, what else do we do? We now need to make sure that whenever we tap on any of these nodes, we open up the screen on the editing page where all these fields are populated, right? So inside of our create node view, we will create a new variable. We'll say final node, and this time we'll make sure that it is nullable, right? So that we can open it using this plus button as well. And we can say this, and this time we'll not write required because this can also be null, right? Okay, now to implement this, we will next implement our init state. So we'll say init state, right? And inside of this init state, we'll get some values. So we'll say if widget.note not equals null. So if it is not null, what we'll do is we'll pass in the title controller.text to be widget.note.title, and since it's not null, we can say not null here. And the same thing goes for description as well. So we can say description on both these places. So simply say description, just like that. And we are passing the description in here. Okay. Next, what we'll do is we will go to our note list item. Inside the on pressed of this, we'll say navigator. let's quickly make this larger. Okay, we can say navigator dot of context dot push material page route, pass in the context and say create node view. Inside of this node we will say the node that we are getting from the constructor, right? Okay, let's quickly save this, and as we tap on any of these nodes we can say we have a new node, our existing node visible here, right? But when we go back we have a new node created with the existing values. Okay, now we'll have to avoid this situation as well. Okay, how do we do that now? We will go to our create node page, right? And inside of this dispose method we'll now first check whether there's something in the whether this widget.note is empty. So before we grab these values, before we check these, we'll first say if widget.note not equals null. Okay, so if it is not null, what we'll do is we will try to add some changes. If it is not null, so if any change happens, should be saved to the existing node, right? Okay, now to make that sure, what we'll do is we'll say final new node equals widget dot node, and then we'll have to call it not null because definitely it's not null, and then we'll use the copy with method on it, and we will pass the new title and the new description, right? And since we're not passing the ID, so it will copy the same ID, and since it has the same ID of the previous node, the existing node will get updated when we save it in the database, right? So once we have all these values in place, we can call this method here, right? And then finally just call return because we don't want any other code to be executed, right? And if okay, that's that. Let's quickly save it. Okay, let's restart the app. Let's open this. Let's go back. Okay, no new node created. Okay, and let's make some changes here. Let's say title changed, and we go back and we see it is updated. Okay, so finally our nodes are being updated. We are able to edit our nodes. Let us now shift our gears towards making the grid view, right? So to make the grid view, once again we'll go back to the widgets. Excuse me for that, and we'll create a new file. We'll say nodes grid dot, okay, and then we'll call it stateless widget. We'll say node grid. Okay, and make it a nodes grid. Okay, so that it would make more sense, right? And similar to the nodes list, we will say final list. I just lost. Okay, list nodes. Okay, right, and then we can say required this dot nodes. Okay, similar to the list view, this also will be having a builder, but we'll be having a package installed for that so that our grid view gets automatically animated. So we'll be using auto animated package. You can find this on pub.dev. We'll install it just like that. Okay, that sounds good. All right, let us now go to the nodes grid. Inside of this, we will return a live grid that comes from the package that we just installed. So we'll say live grid, Okay, and we're going to have few options. You first need to import this. Now you're going to have options. And for that, let's form a document. Okay, looks better. Now we need an item builder for this. Okay, I'm finished building the card. So let's quickly integrate this. And obviously you can check out the whole source code. It's in the description. It will be available. The link will be available soon. Let's quickly integrate our grid view. Inside of this, we need a builder. So we'd say okay, and then we can return our note grid item and pass in the note at our index from notes. Okay, then we need to build a grid delegate. So we can say const sliver grid delegate with fixed cross axis count. Okay, that's that. We need to pass in the cross axis count to be 2. Then let's say cross axis spacing 16 and mean axis spacing also to be 16. Okay, sounds good. Extra comma there. All right, now I need to also pass in the item counts. Okay, that should be notes.length, and options can be live options for now. Okay, that's that. But how do we view this grid now? All we have to do is we have to go back to our home. Okay, and in here we already have this variable that says is ListView, and we can toggle this, use this to toggle between our list and grid. So we'll just quickly check it. We can say if is ListView, then we return our notes list, else we will return our notes grid. Okay, let's save it. Let's switch to grid. Okay, that seems odd. To fix this issue, we will navigate to our notes grid. So let's find the notes grid. Inside here we have mean axis extent. We just have, this should be mean axis spacing, right? We should save it. And okay. All right, what's next? Next we have to implement whenever we have a node that has some data in it, we should be able to delete it, right? So to delete this again, we will go back to our create node and we need a delete icon. So okay, inside this row. So what we are going to do is again we are going to copy this block of code because it contains just one delete icon, the back icon. We are going to override this on pressed and we are going to make it delete. Okay, so we get this delete icon here, and we need to make sure that this delete icon is only visible when we have an existing node being displayed, right? So to ensure that, what we'll do is we'll say widget dot node not equals null. So if it is not null, we get this icon, or if it is null, then we should get something like size box dot shrink. Okay, this should work, and we can again mark it constant. Okay, so let's try to open a new one. Okay, so that works. Finally, we need to implement the on press on this delete button. So what we have to do is we have to show a warning that you're about to delete a node, right? To show dialog, what we do is we say show dialog. We can say show dialog. We already have context, and inside builder we would say context and then we should return something. Okay, and we are supposed to return an alert dialog like so. All right, again we are getting some errors here. Okay, inside this alert dialog we need to write this title. We have to pass in the title, so we'll say text, and we're going to ask the user delete note, right? And again have some styling over there as well, so we'll say style Google Fonts dot poppins, just like that, and have a size of say 24. So let's say font size be 24. Okay, let's tap on delete and see if it is visible. Okay, all right, it's pretty big. Let's make it 20. Okay, now what we need, we were talking about an animation. So what we will do is inside of our assets slash animations, we're going to drop in our JSON. So we'll go back to our animations. Yeah, and you can download these animations from lottie.com. You can search for whatever animation fits you best and you can download it. Okay, and then we'll refer it in our assets. So let's go to our res assets. Base, and we need to have string interpolation enabled. Okay, and then say delete .json. Okay, that should work. All right, and inside of this we are going to pass some body. Okay, not body, it should be okay, content. It's going to be a column children, and it's going to be lottie JSON. Animation assets dot delete. All right, and it's going to have some text, and we can be lazy here. We can grab this text from here, we can paste it like so, make the font size a little smaller and pass some other message. We can say this note will be permanently deleted, so I'm not going to type it, I'll just copy it. Okay, let's save this. All right, so we are getting this animation, but it's pretty huge. Okay, we can customize this. We can make mean axis size, mean axis types dot minimum, and just to make sure it's smaller. Okay, and we can say cross axis alignment dot center, so that everything is very well centered. Okay, somehow it isn't, but we can live with that. All right, that's that. Next we need to add our buttons, so we're going to say action, no, not action, is it, okay, it should be outside this column. Okay, there we go, there we have actions. Inside of actions we're going to have a text button that's going to have an onPressed method and a child. Child would just say proceed, and the other text button should say cancel. Okay, let's see if it works. Okay, so we have proceed and cancel, but these buttons won't work. On cancel, if we say navigator dot pop context, it should get it cleared, so I can say cancel. Okay, it goes away. And the same thing can be done for our proceed as well, because definitely if we proceed, we'd still like to the alert dialog to disappear, and once it does, it should also take us back to the home, because this node no longer exists, right? So what we'll do is we'll say this once again, and again they say okay, so that if we go to delete, proceed, it just shuts down. Okay, the last thing that we need to implement is when we tap on proceed, it should permanently delete the note. Okay, for this functionality, we will go back to our services into our local DB, and we will create another method that says void delete note and takes in the ID. So we can say required int ID. And since again we are making some changes, so we would require instance of the isar, and we will have a write transaction. You can have a write transaction sync. You can say notes isar.notes dot delete sync, and then we'll pass in the ID just like so, this integer ID, right? So that should get our job done. We can come back here into our create note, and before we pop our context, what we can do is we can simply delete our node. So we can say local db delete node, and the ID would be widget.node.id, and we are already verified that this widget.node isn't a null right here, so this should work apparently. Okay, let us now try to delete a node. Let's fully restart the app. Okay, and once we click on it, we can say proceed. Okay, it was supposed to be deleted, but it isn't deleted. All right, we'll have to make some changes to our logic inside on dispose. That's the function responsible for saving our nodes, right? So what we'll do is we will get this check in here. Let's reformat this. Okay, and once we have this check in here, if it is empty, then definitely we no longer need this node, so we can delete it. You can say local db dot delete node and pass in the ID. So it should be widget dot node dot ID, and we are grabbing it by marking it like so. Okay, and we'll see if anything changed. So we're going to compare the existing node title with the current title and the description with the current description. So we can say widget dot node dot title not equals to title, and okay, we are getting some error again. And widget dot node dot description not equals description, just like so. Okay, all right, so if there was something changed, only then we intend to save this note or update this. All right, and if this isn't the situation, then we would like to create a new note and then save it, right? So we can say else, and move all this logic inside of this like so, and we can also move this function inside of this just like that, and we can remove this return, so that every time this logic is we are done with this logic, our controllers definitely get disposed of. Okay, that should apparently solve our issue. So let's go to this node, try to delete it. Okay, the node is deleted, but there's a small little issue here. We don't see any kind of animation going around. Now to get this animated effect inside of our list, what we'll do is we will go to pub.dev and get this package called auto animated list, install it in our pubspec.yaml. Okay, and you can find this package on pub.dev. Just make sure you are using the similar version, right? So we need to just modify our node list. So we'll go here, node list. Okay, here we are, and this is where we need to make some modifications. Okay, so instead of having ListView.builder, we are going to have auto animated list. Okay, and we're going to pass in a type note, right? Just like that. Okay, padding seems fine. Item counts, okay, this one shouldn't be there. It says items. We don't require length on it. We are just parsing our nodes. And inside of this, we have a context. Then we are getting a note. We're getting some index, and we are also getting an animation because it animates it for us. Okay, and then we can wrap it with size transition. So let's say wrap with widget and call it size transition. Okay, size fade transition looks better. And we have a child. We need to pass in an animation, so we'll say animation, and okay, that should pretty much solve the problem. So let's quickly restart the app. Let's try to modify this one. Okay, something isn't not saving here. I guess we broke something. Okay, it should be an or statement, because if anything has changed, we would like to save it. So let's call it now and save it. Okay, so we see the change is updated, right? Okay, so it is being animated. What else we can do? Let's try to delete this one. So if we delete it, okay, looks nice. And we can also switch to the grid view, but the grid view switch looks pretty flat, so we can animate that as well. So what we'll do is we'll go back to our home. Inside of our home, we are going to have some animations here. Okay, so instead of returning all this, we'll just return an animation switcher, and we are going to comment this out for now. We'll return an animation switcher. Okay, there's something wrong here. Okay, it's animated switcher, I guess. Animated switcher. Okay, and we'll pass some duration. Let's say 200 milliseconds. Let's go with 300 milliseconds because we like to see some delay in the animation, and that's what makes it look more beautiful. Okay, what else do we need? We need to have child property that will, be dynamic. So child, and we'll say is list view. So if it is list view, we are going to return our nodes list, just like that. Else we will return a nodes grid. Okay, let's try to refresh this, and there we go. Our smooth animation works. So this is how you create a fully functional nodes app with create, read and update delete functionalities, a persistent local database, and a beautiful UI with GridView and ListView. If you enjoyed this video till now, do subscribe to us, do like this video. This is DartBucket signing off.